Hello everyone, it is Jojo back with another video for you today. Before we get into it though, I just wanted to take a quick couple of seconds and thank every single one of you who has watched my videos recently or liked or subscribed or shared them or anything like that. I did not anticipate at all the reach that my last video was going to get, so I'm very grateful for that. And I'm very grateful for all of you, and I'm hoping that I can just continue to provide great content for all of you, and be able to bring some value and some entertainment to your life as fans of Star Citizen. Real quickly also, I wanted to mention that I am planning to start doing some live streams here in the next day or two. I'm getting it set up so I can stream on both Twitch and YouTube. If you want to follow me on Twitch, feel free. There is going to be a link to my Twitch in the video description, and it should also be in my channel information for the channel page. So if you want to go check me out there, you can do that. We should be starting those in the next couple of days here. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into today's video. So for today, what I wanted to do is do a little bit of a gunship comparison using the Perseus and its newly leaked stats, and compare it to other gunships or dropships or things like that that are of similar size to it or maybe have similar capabilities. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be comparing it to first. Okay, so here we are in Fleet Viewer. We're going to take a look at the ships that I selected for today to compare the Perseus to. There's arguably a couple of others maybe you could compare it to. Like, I considered putting the Nautilus in here, because it has some size 7 guns, and it's a similar size class to the Perseus, but I thought it probably wouldn't be worth it to do that right now, because the Nautilus is probably not going to be coming out for a while, and when it does, it'll probably change a good amount. So these are the 4 ships I selected to compare the Perseus to. So we have the A2 Hercules, the Hammerhead, the Ironclad Assault, and the Star Lancer TAC. So first we're going to briefly go through the stats of each of these ships and then talk about some of their similarities, where they kind of overlap in terms of functionality, and which one specializes with what, and how we can use that in the game in the future. Okay, so we're just going to start with the Perseus, and then we're just going to go down the line here and go over the stats of these different ships real quick. And I will be using the updated stats, or the leaked stats that we've gotten for the Perseus for some changes to its gun package. If you're interested in checking out the video where I talked about that a little bit more, make sure to click this card in the top right corner of your screen. But let's go look at the Perseus real quick. So big things are going to be dimensions. Perseus is 100 meters long, 50 meters wide, and 20 meters tall. And we're just going to look at a couple components. The big thing is it has 2 size 3 power plants, the 2 size 3 coolers, and 2 size 3 shield generators. And then with its updated weaponry, it has the dual size 7, 2 of them, manned turrets, one on the front of the ship here, and then one on the underside near the rear of the ship. And then, as per the leaked stats, the remote turrets that it has have been upgunned from dual size 3s to dual size 4s. So one of them is going to be back here on the rear part of the bridge area. And then the other one is on the underside of the ship in between the engines. And then the other addition to the Perseus is supposedly going to be getting is 4-point defense guns. So I would guess that there'll probably be 2 on top and 2 on the bottom. I guessed, I did a little bit of speculation about where they might be in my video a couple days ago, so you can check that for a whole breakdown of that. But with that drastically has helped the Perseus in at least terms of its fighter defense and being able to fend off at least 2 to 3 fighters or so. It also has 20 size 5 torpedoes, 2 launchers for those. So that's a pretty decent ordnance payload. So that is the Perseus. Now let's go take a look at the A2. Alright, so let's go over the A2 pretty quickly here. So biggest thing is going to be the weapons and the shielding. So the weapons, we got 2 size 5s that are controlled by the pilot, and then we have 3 turrets that have dual size 4s. And then there are 2 turrets I believe they're on the underside, that have control of a single size 5 each. And then there's 2 more turrets that each have dual size 5 weapons. So this thing is bristling with size 4s and size 5s. It is meant to be a ground assault vehicle. It's meant to drop its big old size 10 bombs. It's meant to get in, drop off a vehicle, drop that payload, and then get out. It also has 3 size 3 shields, which is very interesting as it's a little bit smaller than the Perseus, yet it has 50% more shields than the Perseus. So I've talked about this in other videos, but I feel like the Perseus and the Hammerhead as well should gain a size 3 shield to bring it kind of more in line with some of these other ships that have been boosted up to 3 size 3s as well. But yeah, so that is the A2. Let's go on to the Hammerhead. Okay, now here is the Aegis Hammerhead pulled up in Urkel. So the Hammerhead is slightly larger than the Perseus. I believe it's like 115 meters or so, so a little bit bigger. The big thing that the Hammerhead is meant to do is be an anti-fighter ship. That's pretty much what it does. It does it extremely effectively. We've seen it in action in the Squadron 42 prologue. It looks really cool there. So its big thing is it has 6 turrets that all have quad size 4 weapons, which the size 4s are very effective against like light fighters, medium, even up to heavy fighters. And it's very good at what it does. So that's its main thing. Just tons and tons of firepower to just overwhelm enemy fighters and keep them away from your bigger ships that may not have as good of anti-fighter defenses like the Perseus. It doesn't have super great defenses, so if you pair that with like a Hammerhead, they will complement each other very nicely. It does have some missile payload, nothing crazy though, mostly meant to be sent at fighters and things like that. I believe you can change it for bigger or smaller missiles as well if you prefer that. And then this, like I mentioned a minute ago, it has 2 size 3 shields. Really feel like it should get a third. I've been in the Hammerhead a good amount. I know they can fit it in there. There's tons of space like in the corridors somewhere that they could put it. So I think if they put that in, that would really help the Hammerhead out. With that, let's then go on to the Ironclad Assault. Alrighty, so here we are with the Ironclad Assault. It's a little bit bigger than the Hammerhead. It's actually like pretty much the same size as something like the Carrack. It does have a significant amount more weaponry though, which is why I chose this over like the regular Ironclad. It has more weaponry, it's supposed to have more armor, things like that. Although before we do the weapons, I do want to mention, and I did not know this until today. I didn't realize this. I thought it had like 2 size 3 shields or something like that. The Ironclad Assault and the regular Ironclad have 4 size 3 shields. 4! It's the same size as the Carrack. The Carrack has 2 size 3 shields, and this has 4 of them. So, it just reinforces my hope that the Perseus will get a 3rd size 3 shield. But anyway, let's quickly go over the weapons. So on the Ironclad Assault, we have a quad turret that has quad size 5 weapons. I believe that is on the underside of the ship, because I can't see it in this picture. We have 2 remote size 3 turrets that are quad turrets. Those are these on the underside of these little parts here. And then we have 2 size 3 remote turrets, which are going to be up here near the command deck. And then we have, it says 1 size 3 manned, which I believe is this, but this is another one here, so that may just be wrong in there. It may actually be 2 of them. And then the other thing is this also has a small interior turret on the inside of the cargo bay that has dual size 2s in case someone gets in there or something you need to fend it off. And then also, if we look really quick on the command module, in the event you need to detach the command module, it has its own little turret here that has dual size 2s for a little bit of defense. So that is the Ironclad Assault. Oh, also, it has 8 size 4 missiles, so you can leave those, you could put some torpedoes on, you could put some smaller missiles on, things like that. So with that, let's look at the Starlancer TAC really quick. Okay, here's the last one, the Starlancer TAC. This was unveiled just a couple months ago at CitizenCon along with the Starlancer Max, which we already have in the game. So the Starlancer TAC is a little bit smaller than the Perseus and has a little bit lighter of a weapons package, but it is similar enough that I thought it would be appropriate to compare these two. So the big thing that the TAC gains over the Max is it has some additional turrets, some jump seats, as well as a small medical facility, and there is a small snub hangar that's specifically designed to hold a single Mirai Fury. So it still has the quad size 4 guns that are pilot controlled. And then down kind of broadside turrets a little bit behind the bridge on the lower deck, there are 2 turrets, one on either side, that have dual size 5 weapons. And then it has the same turrets on the top of the ship, front and rear, that have those dual size 4. So it does have a decent amount of firepower. It has the 16 size 3 missiles. And then, like I said, it has those that medical bed, that little snub hanger, some jump seats, things like that. It also has 2 size 3 shields, which is the same amount of shields that the Perseus has, whereas the Perseus is bigger. It's a dedicated military ship, and it's, I don't know. I really, really said it a couple times. Really hope the Perseus gets some extra shielding. But anyway, that's all I have for the Starlancer TAC stats. Let's go back over to Fleet Viewer, and let's take a look at these there. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about how I would rate each of these by itself as a gunship, comparing it to the Perseus again, and how it would perform in that similar role. So I think overall it's going to depend a little bit upon what you're planning on doing. So if you're going after fighters, you're going to want to take a hammerhead. That's going to be the ideal choice, of course. Any of these other ships, the A2 has good anti-fighter weapons, the Ironclad has good, the Starlancer TAC is going to be the weakest in terms of its just overall firepower, because it is a little bit smaller, but it's close enough again that I think we can throw it in with these slightly larger ships. So I think if you're going after anti-fighter, Hammerhead is still probably going to be the best option. Maybe once we get the Ironclad Assault, which, as far as I know, at least the Ironclad's being worked on, which means we may also get the Assault variant this year, maybe just not with that. The functionality it's supposed to have where it can fabricate new components or repair ground vehicles. Now, when that comes out, if it still has those 4 size 3 shields, and that pretty good amount of weaponry that's fairly well suited for anti-fighter, that may become a pretty good platform to run with maybe a couple less people than the Hammerhead. And then the A2 is always going to be there as having a good amount of firepower, but it's a little bit more niche, I would say. It's just, the other thing that doesn't help the A2 is it's just so freaking expensive, both in-game and with real money. I think it's like $750 or something like that. And in-game, it's, I want to say it's like 40 or 50 million. So it's really expensive. I think Hammerhead is, I think, in the 30s or 40s in-game. Similar price, but it's going to have, again, in the future, with engineering as well, once we get armor, and then even further down the road with Maelstrom, I think the armor on things like the Perseus and the Hammerhead are probably going to be tougher than the armor on these other 3 ships, because these 2 are dedicated military ships. They're used by the, they're an active military service. There may be some A2s that are used to a degree in the UEE military, but it's, again, probably more for the ground operations and things like that, because that's primarily what this ship is built for. So that'll be something that's a question that we'll have answered down the road, but that's kind of my feeling on that part of it. Okay, and then I also wanted to touch on potentially what ships would work best, like, when paired together. I think the easiest thing to say is a Perseus and a Hammerhead together in like a strike group with maybe a couple of fighters, maybe 2 to 4 F-7As or something like that, are going to be very effective at taking down pretty much any target you can think of, I would say, that is equal size to the Perseus or somewhat bigger, so maybe up to like a Carrack, up to maybe a Reclaimer, Caterpillars, things like that. I don't know if a strike group, I feel like a strike group of just a Perseus, a Hammerhead, and a couple fighters should not be able to take out a Polaris, because the Polaris has a lot more shielding, it has good anti-fighter defenses, and it's going to have quite tanky armor, even to those size 7 ballistic cannons coming into it. I feel like if you wanted to take out a Perseus, how I would structure it is probably using probably 2 Perseuses at least, Then the one hammerhead, in case the Polaris has a fighter or two in the hangar, or they are traveling with some other support ships. And then also have a couple extra, again, maybe 4 F-7As. And I think if you get 2 Perseuses, you would have a decent amount better of a chance of disabling a Polaris if you can get those size 7s to penetrate through the armor and disable those capital components. I think it would be doable. Again, with 1, I don't think you're going to be able to just get enough rounds on target in the right place before you get taken out yourself. With 2, though, I think how it'll split the Polaris's defenses trying to take care of those things, I think it would give you a much better shot. Even so, and then if you had like 3, I think that's when it would start to tip the balance scale much more in favor of the Perseus side winning. But I think that's how it should be. I think that's how it should be balanced, because a couple sub-capital ships should not very easily be able to take out a full-on capital ship. But once you get several, you can overwhelm its defenses. That's where you start to change that balancing and make it so it's a lot more theoretical that you could be able to do that. And then for the last part of this video, I wanted to have a little bit of a fun comparison to kind of just throw out some ideas of maybe down the road what we could be looking at in terms of the combat capability of something like the Perseus. So I was like, well, what if you wanted to take out an Idris, and let's say you only had some Perseuses that were available to you. I don't know. I know we went through the same debacle with the Polaris and Polari, or I don't know what. I'm just going to say Perseuses. But let's say you wanted to take out an Idris. I think if you were wanting to take on an Idris, like an Idris M, the railgun, all that sort of stuff, you're going to need at a minimum 5 Perseuses. Because I think the capabilities of the Idris and its defenses, its armor, its shielding is going to be enough so that in order to break down its defenses quickly enough before your ships get destroyed, I think you're going to need at least 5 Perseuses. Preferably, maybe you'd want 6, maybe 7. Then that's where you probably get into the point of it's going to just get overwhelmed. Even if it launches, like if it has 2 or 3 Gladiuses or maybe some Hornets or something, it launches those. You're probably going to be able to take those out with the anti-fighter capabilities of the Perseus. Even it's not that much, but to take out a couple fighters, it should be able to do that. So yeah, again, that's my guess for the Idris. Now the bigger one is, what about the Javelin? Well, for the Javelin, I think at a minimum, if you're only using Perseuses, which in a real combat scenario you probably wouldn't be, but just for the fun of it, if you're only using Perseuses, I think you would need at least 8 to be at least somewhat even in your chance of disabling a Javelin. Because again, the Javelin, just on these 6 broadside turrets, that's already the same amount of primary weaponry that 3 of these Perseuses have. And then it has at least 3 more of these style of turrets on the underside. I think there might be more, actually. So that's, another 1.5. Plus you have all the other smaller turrets it has, its anti-fighter turrets, its giant turret on top here and on the bottom. This one, on this current model, shows that I think it's like 4 size 9s, but I think that's changed. And the new Javelin model for Squadron 42 seems to, it's a different turret. I think it's dual size somethings, 8, 9, something like that. So that's where I think you have a couple of extra to account for the extra firepower that the Javelin has, and that's where I get a minimum of 8. Would you want 8 though? Probably not. You would probably want like 10 to take this thing on, and that would give you a better chance. But again, not guaranteed still, because the Javelin is meant to just destroy things. The Perseus is also meant to destroy things, but how long is it going to stand up to sustained fire from all of those guns coming from the Javelin? I don't know. So again, I think it's going to take you about 8 total take on a Javelin. Might be more. If you have any other ideas as to how you would approach this, or how many you think it would take to to engage in a combat scenario like this, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. It's just goofy to kind of think about random scenarios like this. So yeah, let me know down in the comments what you think on that. Other than that, though, I think that's all I have for this video, talking about the Perseus as a gunship, how it relates to other gunships, and what you could potentially use it for in the future, even if it's a little bit crazy sounding, like taking on a javelin with 8 of them. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like and subscribe it to see more content like this coming in the future. If you're interested in checking out my Twitch, that'll be in the video description, as well as in my channel information. I'm planning to start some live streams pretty soon there. And I thank you all so much again for all of the love and support on the last video and all my other videos. It's really motivating as a fairly new creator and trying to get started going in this business and wanting to do the best I can for you guys. So thank you all again, and I will see you in the next one.